Everyone's here and we haven't done it already, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everyone. Begin with scheduled appointments. We'll acknowledge the town clerk's resignation and appoint a temporary town clerk effective May 19th, 2024. It is the pleasure of the board.
I move we accept the resignation of Peg Struzik with great regret.
Motion made, seconded. By way of discussion, Peg, thank you very much for serving the town. We appreciate it.
It was my honor to do this job. I absolutely love this job, and when I ran 3 years ago, I didn't think I'd be where I was today, but when I took my oath of office, I promised to do what was best for the town of Pembroke. And with the situation I'm in now, me being in that office is not what's best. Her being in that office is what's best, and I couldn't be prouder of any single individual. But I thank you all. I thank you all for, well, I came 6 weeks to work here, and I stayed 30 years. So it was a good 30 years, and I thank every one of you. Especially Sabrina. No,
Very good.
Sabrina holds this whole place together. She always has.
Very good. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I would like to recommend that the board do take action to appoint a temporary town clerk. And I would like to strongly recommend Andrea McKendrick.
So first order of action was to accept the town clerk's resignation
Do you have to amend that for the day after election, Mr. Chair?
to May 18th is their last day.
19.
18th is her last day.
Or 18th is the last day?
Yes.
Yes, so if you could amend that.
I move that we accept the resignation of Margaret Struzik effective May 18th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the next order of business is to appoint a temporary town clerk effective May 19th, 2024. What is the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, so the board has some options. If you look at the memo, I think we should talk about the three options. And I'll
Please.
if I can go through those real quick. You have the option, you can vote the temporary town clerk to serve out the remainder of Peg's term. So that would end May 16th, 2026, which is another 2 years. You have the option to call for a special election, although there is a cost to a special election, so keep that in mind if you're going to do that. And appoint a temporary clerk to serve until the election is certified. And the third option is appoint a temporary town clerk to serve until the next local election, which would be May 17th of next year. There's some really, I'm just going to say it, in my opinion, there's some strange things in the statute around the town clerk retiring and appointing a town clerk. If we have appointed temporary town clerk, the town clerk cannot act as town clerk for town meetings, which I think is a little bit weird. We would actually have to elect a town clerk just prior to the start of the town meeting, which I don't think is a big deal if you have a quorum, you elect somebody. However, the temporary town clerk cannot serve as the town clerk for a town meeting under the statute. So it's a little bit, as I said, a little bit strange.
I was going to say, do you mind if I?
Please.
So in speaking with Mr. Dodge, is he here tonight? Okay. One of the things that's interesting is that if you have an elected role and you appoint someone to it, there is one limitation on what they can perform while they're appointed to the elected role. So town meeting requires the elected person, I hate to say it, but it's one of those things where they oversee the assistant, the counters, the count, the votes, the recording of the votes, and what those numbers look like, to turn to the moderator, because the moderator really runs town. So Steve was explaining, Steve Dodge, the moderator, was explaining he is very familiar with this. It happens in other towns. It happened recently in one of our South Shore community neighbors, and I don't want to say it if I'm wrong. So he was saying, yeah, there's a motion that's made at the beginning of the meeting, similar to let people from out of town, speak, may I have a second, and so forth. So it's having a deputy moderator, having a temporary town clerk for the meeting, whoever you appoint as the temporary town clerk from an appointed vantage point still runs town meeting. But they need to have that elected body sitting with them. And Steve has some creative ideas on how to solve that problem. So it is weird. Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 14. It's very strange. It seems very contradictory. But they're trying to keep elected people in that elected lane and appointed people in that appointed lane. So in the interim, until an election, your appointed temporary town clerk would do absolutely everything but that one moment at town meeting.
All right, very good. Is there any other information, Bill, that would help us make a decision today?
I think you have most of the information. Andy does a terrific job for us, and she will do a terrific job if we choose to appoint her. So I have no concerns about that whatsoever. The only thing I wanted to make sure the board knew was all of the strange legal restrictions that are in place. So it's clearly your right to go in the direction you want. I would not recommend a special. I don't think we need a special election. I don't think we want the cost of a special election. Andy's going to be able to do everything that the office holds. So yeah, that really takes, in my opinion, takes that off the table. I would recommend that the board either go and appoint her for the full remainder of Peg's term and or for the year until next May when we have the annual town election. So either way.
All right, very good. Before we take any action, I'd like to discuss some of the thoughts that I've had. I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I think that it is important for the town to have someone in that position that is steady. And I would recommend appointing someone for the full and complete term to 2026 for a couple of reasons. One of them is to keep that steady person in place. And also, I'd like to have a conversation with the townspeople that, is this the time to change from an elected town clerk to an appointed town clerk? And I think it's gonna take a couple of years. So I would like to take a whole year to have that conversation. And then if the answer is yes, then we bring it to next year, 2025's town meeting, and give the legislature a chance, because it'd have to be a special act by the legislature. So give them a whole year to pass it on Beacon Hill. And then if it comes back no, then we haven't lost anything. We'll have an election in 2026, so no harm, no foul. But if the town has an appetite to change from an elected to an appointed position, which we've done with other positions in town, I think we should have that conversation. I think we should give this board, should give the town enough time to have a full and complete discussion on that. That's my opinion.
So if we appointed her until 2026, we would still have that time.
That's what I'm getting at.
So 2026 is what you had mentioned?
That's the end of Peg's term.
Okay, great.
Appoint-
I thought you had said next year, so.
Next year, we would have a town meeting vote,
Great.
and then a town election vote, and then petition, it's a vote to petition the state legislature to change it, because we can't change
Which
the way
gives us
our
time,
town,
because
the
it'll be
form of
another
our
year.
town government, only the legislature can,
No, I'm on board with
Yeah.
2026. I thought you'd said 2025, that's all right.
right? Yeah,
How many surrounding towns have appointed versus elected?
It's a mix. The trend is certainly going to appointed. However, I will state that the town of Situate just attempted to go to an appointed, and it failed. But it is a mix. It's probably 50-50. When you look at it, Plymouth County is 50-50. Throughout the state, there are obviously more appointed town clerks. And I know of no town clerks in cities that are appointed. I mean, that are elected, they're all appointed.
Right, so I've been on town committees before. I think this board can form a committee to have board members, people in town government, and citizens to have a committee to discuss it amongst themselves and then bring it forth to the full townspeople. And I think one whole year is needed. Next town, to get to next town meeting, there'll be a lot of work between now and then, believe it or not. It's not an easy thing to change the form of town government. It took, I don't know, 3 years to change it to the town manager with working. And so it's a vote of the people, but the people need information, and it's gonna take some time to gather the information so that people can make the right decision that suits the town going forward. So that's my take on that. If anyone else has anything further on that, please speak, but if you have something someone to present for a vote, you can do that as well. I'll put it to the board.
I agree with you, Dan, 100%.
I do as well.
And we've been talking about this for years, Dan. So, I mean, to have consistency for the rest of Peg's term, I'm on board fully with that. And looking at the options of making this a hired position instead of elected. Because we've done it before with other places in town, such as treasurer collector. So we do have precedents in town of having elected going to hired.
Yes, and it'd take it out of the political realm and put it into the town manager, who is the person who would do the hiring. So there's a bunch of reasons that I believe we should bring it to the town for a discussion, and we'll have that discussion shortly. If there's nothing, very good. So if there's nothing further on that plan going forward, in the right here and now, we need to appoint someone. Is there any discussion on who we should appoint?
I would move to appoint Andrea McKettrick to serve as the temporary town clerk and as a town registrar from 12 a.m. on May 19th, 2024 to May 16th, 2026.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded by way of discussion. Hello, Andy. So, Andy, I've asked you this face to face, and I just want to ask you this here now. Are you willing to take this position?
Proudly.
All right.
Proudly.
Good answer. Is there any other discussion? All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. If I could, I need to say a thank you to Peg. Ever since I stepped into that office, Peg has done what a true leader does, allow me to grow. She just gave me basically an open palette and said, grow, learn as much as you can, take on as much as you can, grab everything by the horns, and that's what I've always done. I've always tried to provide the best possible services to our residents. That is my utmost goal every single day. Anybody that walks in that office, and that will always be the office goal. Provide the best services to our residents, offer as much as we can, do what we can to help people. Voters, I don't care if it's a dog, birth certificate, doesn't matter. Anything that our office can help with, we will always strive to tenfold. And I learned that from Peg. Peg was the exemplary person that showed me that that's the service that we need to offer. So under that, I need to thank Peg. She has been the best possible person I could ever learn and grow from, learn this office, learn the roles and responsibilities of the town clerk, and flourish under it, I believe. And I want to thank you guys for having faith in me that I can lead this department, I can lead this office through some, challenging elections and all sorts of, discourse that might happen. And I just want to thank everybody that's here. A lot of people are here to kind of show support, and I really appreciate that. A lot of my poll workers are here, the people that we work with through those very important elections, that they're here to show support, that, they trust in me, and I just want to thank everybody here. Thank you, guys. I have the warrant for you to sign, so
Thank you, guys. I will collect them for you.
thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much. All right, very good. Next on the agenda, we have Lance Kennedy, the The recreation and community programming discussion. And Lance, just to begin, could you just, for the folks at home especially, just tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, good evening. My name is Lance Kennedy, and I'm your Community Services Director. And what that entails is I get to sort of piggyback off of the services that the town does, but I get to oversee all the great community services that we provide to our town. And now that includes the Council on Aging, which I'm very excited about. And Marie and I have had some great preliminary conversations on how we're going to partner together, so I'm very excited for that. And part of my responsibility in this new role will be overseeing this great new facility that we have before us. So picture as of today, so the sign is up. Just if you haven't seen it, the sign is up, which is exciting. And then if I seem a little loopy, I've been smelling the floor. I've been smelling the floor all day. So the poly is starting to go down, and it is down, and it's starting to look exceptional. So we're excited for that process, and eventually we'll be concluded in a month or so. But so we're excited for that. And I do want to obviously pick it back. We're excited to partner with the clerk's office to do elections in there, right? And to have everybody in one house. And I know she's excited to not have to travel all over the place to be able to do that. So we're excited to house that in this location. So I know you have a very busy agenda tonight, so I will give very high level. And then everyone knows if they have any particular questions, find me, please, and I'll gladly answer those. So high level, as we think about what this facility will provide. So several sort of buckets just so we can sort of compartmentalize what that could look like. So we'll start with our youth programs, right? So we know the old center, we provided a lot of youth programs through the rec department. We want to continue to do that. So with that, you think about different avenues that we can go. Everything from t-ball to improv to coding to even fencing. Yes, I had that at my Y, and it was a very fun program, so we'd love to see that come back. Gardening programs, dodgeball, pottery, STEAM programs, which is STEM plus the arts, right? We want that STEAM involved. Volleyball programs, Lego robotics. So I think we've met with several different groups, including the commission, and we did a lot of brainstorming on what does the community need. We want to continue, and I will continue to speak to the community in that. Is you have some great ideas, please share them. Our role and my role is to facilitate what are the needs in our community and how do we meet those needs. So if you see that need and I'm missing it, please find me to help do that. So we want to be able to do that. So these are just some ideas, but there's so much more that we can do with this facility. So as we look at the community center, it's a shell to provide us opportunities to do these programs, right? So we're going to have the space now to do some of these programs that we haven't been able to do. From an adult side, we want to be able to provide some unique programs from foreign languages. I've already met with a couple instructors that are, and that goes back to, we can talk about the costs later, but they're willing to teach Spanish and French to us at no cost because they're so passionate about what they do. So we're very excited for that opportunity. Mindfulness programs, pickleball, yes, we will have pickleball. But nutrition, right? Teaching safety courses from first aid, doing dance programs, book clubs, all those good stuff. So yes, this building will be able to house those unique activities. And then as we think about community events, right? So both led by the COA or led by the rec department, but also led by our community. There's amazing nonprofit groups within our own community that have already reached out to us to say, hey, can we use your facility to house whatever event, whether it's a craft fair or some other things that raises money for great nonprofits within our community, right? So we want to be the home to that. Of course, Candy Bingo, we are bringing in, yes, community, the egg hunt is coming back. So we will do that. We were very tempted to try to get ahead of the green this year, but it will be back for next year. My commission is very excited to bring that back, so that will be back once again. But ice cream socials, movie nights, we have some great screens in the new building. We'll have a great green to show that on. So we're very excited. Lunch and Learns, an opportunity. We have a great, amazing new kitchen over there, along with a great multi-purpose room right off of that. So combining those two opportunities. So again, this is just a tip of what the opportunities could be. So we talk about leagues, right? So we got this amazing new gym, as well as our outdoor spaces. So cornhole programs, pickleball, basketball, dodgeball. Yes, adult flag football, all that fun stuff. And dodgeball is adults we're talking here, not just kids. So absolutely, we are absolutely going to get that involved. So if you think about a typical day, and I know this sort of comes up a lot, well, what would a day look like at the community center, right? So this is kind of an overview. These are rooms that we have within our center. And this is just a mock of what we could do. So I know one of the big questions has been, will there be open gym time? You know, we want to keep that gym as open and available as we can. We know the kids are going to come after school. They're going to want a place to go. I see them on the courts. I see them in the center sort of roaming around. I want to suck them in. I want them in the building with us. So yes, we're gonna have that, but in the same respect, we have our set programs that are in there. So the beauty of the space that we've created, it's very large. And we can divide it in multiple spaces, so we can use it a lot of different ways. So just, this kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that we can do throughout the day. And there's still lots of space to fill, right? So we're looking to do that. We want to provide, some of the conversations I've had with our seniors and the group at the Council on Aging is, you know, a lot of people think we are one thing, but they don't come into the building to see what the COA really does. I am excited because their programs will be happening all day long in this building, but other programs will be going on, and we hope that others will participate. Take a chair yoga program, right? There may be those of us that are a little younger, but we're not able to move a lot, and a chair yoga program would be very beneficial. But maybe I'm in my 30s and others are in their 60s, right? We want to see that multi-generational program that come together, and I'm hoping that's more intentional in this facility now. And they're excited to share that. They're excited to share all the things that they have going on with that. So just kind of a typical day, just to kind of give you an idea. And then as we put the guide together, this kind of just gives you an idea of some of the programs we'll provide, right? So we'll sort of have it in a formal format. I use the Y sort of, we use 4 seasons, right? So we'll have a summer guide, a fall guide, a winter guide, and a spring guide. So we're coming into the summer season. We talked a little bit about that. It's kind of a challenging time. So just from our vantage point, we're sort of using that as the soft opening of programs, right? So we're going to introduce a few programs in each sort of genre or category of activity. Hopefully that will start to build. We know a lot of families will be away over the summer, so we won't go heavy. And then September, you're going to see a full guide of everything that we hope to offer, and really a full line of activity. That also gives us some time to sort of figure out the dynamics of the building, the ebbs and flows, the time frame that we can be open based on the staffing. That gives us some time to put those pieces together to really hit it hard in September. But this kind of just gives you an idea of what the guide could look like. So with that, that's, again, a big, giant overview of what this building can be, right? And I think ultimately, when it comes to programming, there is no limits. And I think that's the intent of it. And if we can make it fit, we're going to do that. And our team is excited, both Jess in the rec department and Marie in the Council on Aging, to provide our own programming within that. But how can myself as Community Services Director pull in those outside resources to connect to this building and make that the hub? You know, we've got the farmers market coming this summer, we're very excited for, and a few other events like that, activities that will draw people to make this campus, as I see it, the place to be. We want people to be here in the center. We're going to continue to improve with playgrounds, and we have the adult fitness court coming. Hopefully the town can support that coming up at our town meeting. And as we continue to grow this campus, it's all about connectivity. Whatever we have here, we're hoping to connect hiking trails from here to come out here to go to Logie and a few others. That this whole center will truly be the hub that we can grow from and connect our communities.
Thank you, Lance. Could you touch on the day-to-day services that will be provided to the elderly
Yep.
community? Because a lot of people, and I don't blame them for thinking this, they think it's a big gym and only a gym. But talk about all the services for the elders.
Sure, and so everything they currently provide is moving over to the new facility, right? So nothing changes there. All their old faithfuls that they love, from movies to the Dell Men's Club, to all those tried and trues that they've had over there, their fitness classes, their card clubs, their book clubs, those are all moving to our new facility.
In their educational services too, with whether it's a lawyer or
Absolutely.
Social Security help.
Yep, so we provide, I know there's insurance help that we provide, financial help around understanding Medicare and those typical things. We also bring in medical professionals. In the new facility, there's a nurse's station so that they can get privacy when they come in and get consultations, whether it's for whatever specialty that the doctor that they provide for that particular day comes in on. So all those services will continue to be there and hopefully grow now that there's some more space to be able to do that. Absolutely.
Very good. Board members have any questions?
Oh, it looks great. Excited.
Yeah, so we're excited. June 15th, we will remind the community again, 10 a.m.
10 a.m.?
Yep, 10 a.m. now that we have a set time. We're excited for the ribbon cutting. We hope to see everyone there. We're excited. We will have some special guests that I just spoke with today that will be there as well, which I'll share with Bill. So we're excited for the ribbon cutting and to have everyone there. So again, a formal invitation. We're excited to have the select board there to join us in this event.
And I didn't anticipate any, but if there's anyone in the audience that had a question about the programming, if not, yes.
I saw cornhole and coffee. It could be coffee, bean sacks, and coffee.
I like it, sponsorship. All right, let's do it. Steve, we got sponsorships already. That's
I was
perfect.
gonna say, there's a couple of them coming up. They're coming right behind you.
Absolutely. No, and that's a big piece of it. We want to integrate all components of our community, right? So I see we have this amazing kitchen, and I know eventually we'll grow into developing our own staff for the Meals on Wheels program and cooking more in-house. But we see that kitchen too, to partner with local businesses. I want to have you in, come teach a cooking class for me. You get the community excited about your food, and then, hey, go back to my business and try my food in a grander scale. So we want that opportunity to connect to the local businesses to really show them off using that building. So that'd be a great opportunity.
Lance, I think you're off to a great start with this. It's going to be a big learning curve here with scheduling, revenues. These are questions I'm going to have in like 6 months. If
All
you
right,
could
6
go back
months,
and,
I'll look for it.
kind of update us.
Sure,
that'd be
absolutely.
great. I'll have more questions then.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Right, next on the agenda is the mobile food vendor caterer application. My Coffee Smiths, Pembroke-based, Stephen and Amy Smith. Hello.
How you doing?
Just tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do. We have your information in the packet, so just give us an update.
So we are local coffee roasters, and we would like to roast coffee and sell it at the farmer's market. In roasting the coffee, we'd also like to serve it hot and brewed for $2 a cup. And we roast from 5 countries, 7 regions, and it's organic coffee and good for you, and it doesn't give you a stomachache like Dunkin's.
We've donated off to Council on Aging, decafs we give to, anything that ages out in our mind is not bad coffee, it's just old. and
It goes
sour.
stale.
We would rather gift it. So we've given to the police, fire, Council on Aging, anything that is old to us needs to be used. And we just want to make sure that everyone enjoys a good cup and slow down a bit.
Yeah. If you want to run on Dunkin', you can run on Dunkin', but if you want to unwind and
We don't want to say.
we'll
too
do the
much.
grinding, you do the unwinding, we'll make you some coffee.
All right, very good. Does the board have any questions? Is there any action to be taken?
I would move to approve a new mobile food vendor permit to be held by Stephen and Amy Smith, doing business as My Coffee Smiths, to be exercised as a caterer on private property or when invited into a public event such as the farmer's market, conditionally upon the approval of the health agent.
Second.
Okay, motion made, seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'm glad to see you guys are from Pembroke.
Raise that family here.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
All right.
Welcome.
See y'all there.
All right, next on the agenda is a mobile food vendor caterer application for a Cup of Amore LLC, Marshfield-based, Megan Hughes. Hello.
Hi.
We have your information in our packet. Could you just tell us what you'd like to do?
Absolutely. My name's Megan Hughes. Thanks for having me here tonight. Tracy, hi. I'm actually a Marshfield resident, and I'm the owner of Cup of Amore LLC. I am a new business and in the process of finalizing my mobile coffee cart that will be used for private catering events. I will have an espresso machine on my cart, and different types of teas and cocos, and I'm looking to be catering for private events and was hoping the town of Pembroke would invite me in so that I can serve the community here as well.
Very good, thank you. Does the board have any questions? Is there any action to be taken?
I would move to approve a new mobile food vendor permit to be held by Megan Hughes doing business as Cup of Amore LLC to be exercised as a caterer on private property or when invited into a public event conditionally upon the approval of the health agent.
Second.
Okay, motion made, seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Well,
Thank
good luck and
you.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is a board action item, vote to appoint Marie Vitale to the Old Colony Elder Services for GATRA.
Mr. Trubugo,
Yes.
we had a request from Ms. Emmett as she is departing, and everybody, is sad to see her go. She would like to see continuity with the Old Colony Elder Services appointment and the GATRA appointment by appointing former outreach coordinator Marie Vitale to those roles.
All right, does the board have any discussion? Is there any action to be taken?
I would move to appoint Marie Vitale as the Old Colony Elder Services and Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit Authority representative for the town of Pembroke.
Second.
All right, motion made second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is vote to approve the minutes of April 10th, 2024. What is the board's pleasure?
I would move to approve the minutes of April 10th, 2024.
Second.
Motion made seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Yeah, Miss Jane.
Just back up one.
Oh, checked it too soon. Vote recommendation to appoint Jane Cornan of 260 Water Street to the Bylaw Review Committee.
Jane has a business meeting tonight, she couldn't make it.
Okay, and it is the recommendation of the committee.
It is.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any action to be taken?
I'll move to appoint, motion to move to appoint Jane Curran to the Bylaw Review Committee.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
The one time I say, I forget to ask if there's any discussion, someone will have discussion. So I say it every time.
Just lost Bill for a minute.
Just lost Bill. All right, let's go on to liaison updates. Are there any this evening? Is there any old or new business?
New business,
Yeah, we-
Memorial Day parade.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss that tonight.
Yeah, we have to wait for Bill for that. Are there any announcements this evening from the board?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Cleanup day was this past weekend, which went really well, considering we had to reschedule times and places because of the rain, but we had a great turnout. We're hoping next year we will have it on the green, we're hopeful, and turn it into a little bit more of an Arbor Day celebration. Fish Fry, just another reminder, is May 5th. Not only would we love you to attend, but we would love if you wanted to volunteer, if you would reach out to me. We're looking for adult volunteers. And I guess that's it for now.
Are there any other announcements?
Yeah, I have one other one, Mr. Chair. Don't forget about the Adult Pinewood Derby fundraiser, helping out PAC 105, April 28th over at Stellwagen, starting at 2 p.m. check-in, 3 p.m. race. It should be a fun time, and there's so many people that are basically making sure they're there as the cars. I got people that have like 5 cars that the kids made it in the 80s, and they're going to be running this time as adults. And also just make sure we help out support our Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and all that too, so.
And if you're entering the car, you have to pre-register.
Yes, thank you.
All right, very good. If there are no further announcements, we'll go back to the town manager's budget presentations. Bill, are you prepared?
I am. Well, sort of. I blew up my PowerPoint right before this meeting, so we're going to do this a little bit old school. In your package, you have the budget. I'm going to actually start with the water department budget, which is this sheet here, and I will run through it in some detail with us tonight. Dan Sullivan. Obviously, if you don't know Dan, Dan is in charge of our water departments and doing a wonderful job. So we're very pleased by that. But as I have with all the other budgets, I will run through the budget detail, and then if you have questions for Dan or myself, we're happy to answer those. So,
Starting where again?
we're starting, if you look, you have this packet, you have 13 pages, and then on the 14th page, you're going to find the 2 solid waste recycling and water enterprise. These are the only 2 budgets that you have not seen. So I want to make sure we go into detail with these and talk about them. All of the other budgets you have seen presentations on. So these are non-general fund budgets. They are enterprise fund budgets. An enterprise fund, for the audience who may not know, is a self-sufficient budget. The revenue stream must support the cost. So rates on the water side do that. Rates on the trash do that. And so I'm talking about water first. On the top half, we've obviously, all salaries, all contractual on the top half of this budget. You'll see that the director's salary is still there. Gene Fomini is still with us. However, Dan is the day-to-day operations manager for the water enterprise. And does basically all of the work now. Gene will be retiring in the next fiscal year, and Dan will assume 100% of those responsibilities and the licenses. Dan is fully licensed to operate our system, and Dan has been very aggressive in getting the staff below him licensed so that we have the licensed individuals per DEP regulations. So I'm very pleased with that. So next down is the full-time salaries category. This is for all of the staff except for clerical. Obviously, you can see the large increase there. That is because they are obtaining their licenses and they're climbing the ladder on the salary scale, which we built in an incentive for everybody to get licensed. Cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth are struggling to hire licensed individuals, so we built it into the last collective bargaining contract. We built it into our salary schedule so that if someone obtains a license, they will get paid more along that curve. We've had some success with that, which is good for us. Some of my colleagues out there are struggling and actually having serious conversations with some private companies to run their systems. We're likely not going to have to do that, so I'm pleased by that. Moving down, the next one is clerical. We have one clerical individual who works in the department, does all of the billing there, and then performance appraisals, contractual, the rest of the items as we go down. Longevity, upgrades, overtime at the treatment plant, vacation buyback, and standby pay are all contractual items. So as we move through that, so that wages and salaries number, we're requesting $961,051. As we move down to the general expenses, you will see that most of the general expenses are not changing. Obviously, there's an increase in gasoline. The other increase is clothing allowance. Where is the chemicals? Is it on this page or the next page? So you can see there's not a large increase on that group. The next group is electricity, heating fuel, chemicals. I want everybody to note that chemicals line. That is a direct relationship to the cost of our chemicals that we treat our water increasing. We're not changing how we treat. It's just the exact same items that we buy in this fiscal year for $170,000, which we really don't, but it's more than that now. We're requesting $245,000.
That's a 50% increase.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. There are limited vendors that provide this, although there's a competitive market. It's just not very competitive in our favor at this point. So, but I want to flag that because that's an important piece as we move through this discussion. So, other than that, it's basically level funded except for meters and hydrants. We're going to be ramping up. I'm actually going to let Dan talk about the importance of it. You okay with meters and hydrants piece? As your hydrants age, you need to replace them on a regular schedule. We need to aggressively go after that a little bit. Hydrants will fail. They're never, in my career, which is pretty lengthy, I've never seen a hydrant fail high. They fail low, which is great for the residents, but not great for the town. If someone's using water, you want that hydrant to capture the use that people use. And we want to make sure that our hydrants are accurately measuring. So we want to avoid some of the situations. I don't know if people remember, the city of Brockton had a major issue about 5 years ago with water hydrants. We want to absolutely avoid that. So we're going to aggressively go after a hydrant replacement. Meter. I keep saying hydrant. Meter. Sorry. Water meter replacement program. So, and at that, if you have any questions, budget or operations, I'm here, Dan's here. So.
Yeah, looking at the full-time salaries versus the overtime. So the full-time salaries are going up by about 10%, but your overtime is going up by 40%.
Yeah. So what's happening with that is we're doing some things on overtime. Some of the hydrant meters, some of the other things. We can talk about that too. It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. We have limited staff. We're gonna try.
So you're expecting a lot more overtime than as is typical. It's a function of the amount of overtime, not the increase to the salaries
Well,
ultimately.
it's both, but
Well, but what's driving the increase 40% higher is you're gonna be relying on overtime a lot more.
And is it because we weren't flushing before?
well, we were flushing, but we weren't doing the same flushing. We were doing other things. We're gonna be doing more maintenance, more things, you know, and. if you
Yes,
want-
so the flushing program, they used to just do once a year. We are now doing it twice a year, so that cost has obviously doubled. Other overtime, we have a lot of projects in the works right now, the Oldham Street job, so the guys may have to work late for that to stay with the contractors. We have the Brockton interconnection project that's gonna be starting soon. All those things, like contractually, like Bill said, it may result in more overtime. The guys start summer hours, so they actually leave earlier, so we have to pay them to stay later with the contractors. So just trying to make sure we're covered.
And again, with the overtime versus adding more staff, there's always a balance. If you add staff and suppress the overtime,
Pension.
now you're on the hook for post-employment benefits. So there's a balance that you have to have. So the overtime is not always an evil thing in a municipality.
And like Bill said, getting licensed operators is difficult. I know I was with a couple of towns today, and they said they've had positions open for well over a year.
And I'll note, we have not.
Yeah,
So-
we've been fortunate.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Is there anything else, Bill?
No, we're good on this one, unless there's questions.
Yeah, talking about the flushing, I know we moved to the new flushing strategy.
Yep.
You know, obviously, you always see, you know, posts online about the brown water and whatnot, which, you know, we're still working with. What, can you speak to the results of the changed flushing strategy, how that's worked, and the volume of calls maybe that you've been receiving in the past versus now? How's that been trending?
So obviously, when I started, the calls were constant. We were already deep into it. After we finished the fall flushing program, calls dropped off for about 2 months. And then, like I said, our goal was do a complete flush, and then we'll see where our true problem areas are. And that's one of the requests is High Street. High Street's had an issue with dirty water for years. It's unlined cast iron pipe, and it's been choked down. When we flushed that street, actually, the flow is wrong. We're getting about 400 gallons at the end of the road, when the engineers anticipated we hit about 1,100 gallons. So, just due to the age and the material of the pipe, it needs to be replaced. So like I said, the flushing program, there's other benefits to it. We're identifying problem areas in the system. We're cleaning the mains out, obviously, and checking to make sure things are working properly, gate valves, hydrants, all that. They said overall calls have dropped significantly. The other issue with dirty water is obviously our sources. We have sources that have iron and manganese in them. We do have a filtration plant. Not all the stations are filtered currently. So until those are addressed, there will be dirty water, and that's something every town experiences.
Do we have a plan in place or a path on moving towards filtering that water that he's speaking
So
of?
we are looking at sources, we are looking at including mains. You're gonna see on the capital plan as we talk about it under the article tonight, a large sum for work on High Street. It's a big number, but it's necessary.
Like I said, so doing the full flush and then seeing what problems lingered helped us identify what are our true issues. And then, like Bill said, on the capital plan, those are funds we're requesting to begin addressing those issues.
That's a result of the new, you would say that's a result of the new flushing?
Yeah, because
strategy?
we really pinpoint, this is a true issue, this was an operational issue or, differentiate the two.
Okay.
So you said High Street had a cast iron main, and what's the replacement material?
We'll use cement line, ductile line. That's what they've been using since the 60s. It's a common material. The alternative is PVC. In our rules and regs, we do specify to use ductile line with the cement line. So that way, the water's not touching the metal material, so it can't oxidize and percolate.
Very good. Are there any other questions?
What about the Spring Street area? I feel like I always hear from the Spring Street residents.
So, High Street's not alone. We have 11 miles of online cast. So going forward on the capital, we're requesting to roughly do about a mile a main a year of replacement. We want to tackle all the online cast iron and spread throughout the town. We need to deal with those issues before we focus on them.
We're going to be letting the residents know where they're going. We know High Street's doing, Eversource students up the High Street right now. We're doing water work on Bolton. Since Old Washington is between two different areas. If something happens, we're getting groundwater all the time.
Exactly.
So that's kind of concerning to the residents there too.
Just as a note, we had a brush fire yesterday over there where
Oh, we did?
yeah, the hydrants were open, and so we got a few groundwater calls. They need some water. So.
I was unaware of that. Yeah, so like you said, just because this street has online cast doesn't mean it's not going to spread to the connected streets. The whole system's connected. So if we have one issue, it can impact other areas of town. As we pump water or the pump shut off and we take water from the tanks, the water's shifting back and forth. So if there's discolored water or sediment gets caked up, until it's removed from the pipe, it's going to be there. Whether people use it or we go out and spot water.
So for the capital programs that you have going forward, where can the folks find that online? It must be published.
So when we go into a project, we publish the projects, what's going on, and what's there. So if they look on the website, they can see that. These are not approved, so they won't see these as approved projects. They'll see these as part of the 5-year capital.
I guess what I'm asking for is like the highway plan, the roads plan. What is the water infrastructure plan?
So water, you're going to see that on the capital plan tonight too. Water is requesting to update the master plan for water. I am supporting that. It's on the request for this evening. So you'll see an updated plan. Right now, it's on our 5-year capital plan.
Yeah, it's important for the folks to be able to find it and differentiate. What's the future of the road? Which one's going to be done? What are the priorities of the roads? What are the priorities of the water system? And where can I find it? Not everyone can manipulate the internet as well as other people. So we need it to be forward-facing on our webpage.
Absolutely. I mean, I get a lot of questions about that. That's why we want to do the master plan. We want to have, something we can publish and let people see this is where we're headed. We've had the consultants work with us. We already have an idea of what we need to do. We just want to.
Yeah, it's easy for us because we're involved. We're talking to you. We're talking to Bill all the time. So we see this. So we're like, we have a plan. We pretty much know what it is. But we're involved every day, or just about every day. The regular people need to have a place where they can get it quickly.
And the water plan is aging out now. It's starting to get where we need to redo that, which is why we're requesting.
Yeah, that's why. And even if it's an older one that needs to be updated, if it's just in a location someone can find.
Are they not
That's what I'm
on the
asking for.
DPW job page? I feel like a lot of the job
Yeah, they are
page
there.
is.
Most everything is there, but it's challenging.
I know, it still takes forever to find it.
Yeah, sometimes the keywords on that webpage just lead you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that and see if we can, move those to the top of the queue.
All right, very good. Anything else for Dan or Bill on this subject? Thank you, Dan.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I know the answer, but is there any desire or plan for people that don't have public water to get public water? We're talking about people with groundwater, we're talking about people with no water.
If they have no water, they don't live on a public street, first of all, right? Because believe it or not, for the people at home, there are a number of unapproved, unaccepted roads in Pembroke, especially around the pond areas. And you have to understand also that when these developments were built, somewhere back in the 20s and 30s, the density was very tight in these pond areas, right? And now fast forward to that's a full-time residence, now it's not a cottage anymore, and they want the same services handed to them that everyone else who has 40,000 square feet and frontage, 150 foot of frontage, all the setback regulations. So what happened was that the developer and the people that bought and built these projects, these neighborhoods, way back when, got the advantage of having density. Now, fast forward, they want the advantage of the density and having multiple buildings in a tight location, and the services that everyone that has 40,000 square feet, 150 foot of frontage. So there's a balance to have that. We have been accepting streets through the years, and we've actually been plowing streets that the town doesn't own through the years. So to put maybe the new master plan, they can look into that. But to expect the town to just put a water system in for what's a private road,
It's not a private road.
there are some, maybe not the one you're speaking of specifically, but a lot of people don't know that there are many, many roads in town
That's
that
why
are
I knew the
unaccepted.
answer.
Yeah.
About the unapproved road, because that's why it's not paved, and that's why it's got potholes, and
Sure.
I actually paved in front of my house because it had a big pothole. So I called the contractor, had him come down and pave in front of my house.
Yeah.
But that said, I think water is a basic service that I think we could all enjoy. And I understand where you're coming from. It's an expense that maybe we can't do, but it'd be nice to have it somewhere on the master plan to think about in the future.
There is a process for folks who live on unapproved road or street, for them to come to the town.
I don't like
bring
the
that
process. But I was told with the process, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is you get 51% of the people on the street to agree to the process. And then basically the town will come in, survey it correctly, pave it, and then they'll tax share until it's paid off. My fear is there are some elderly people that live on my street, and I think if we did that, we'd get the 51%, but some people might have to move, and I won't do that to my neighbors.
Yeah, and then the planning board would have a hearing on it, and they would consider, the very precise term, adequacy of the way. So they have to make sure that the way is adequate for police and fire services to get down. The stormwater management is taken care of. So there's more to it than just accepting the town and putting asphalt over an old dirt road.
It is a good thing for the town, this stormwater management, because right now, as we know, it's not being done. And it would be good to have stormwater management to protect the ponds from runoff water. So it is a win-win if we ever got to that point.
It's definitely worth, as they're looking into the master plan for both water and the roadways. And the story that I just related a minute ago was really for the folks that didn't know. And it's not every road, and you certainly knew it already, but not everybody did know that there are streets that are unaccepted.
We certainly have.
All right, is there anything further? Yes.
I have one question. When it comes to the flushing, do we do any type of testing before we do the flush and then testing afterwards to kind of be able to show folks the difference between before and after?
No, our routine testing is bacteria testing, to make sure there's no bacteria present. We see that when we chlorinate, we have chlorine residuals, so we know that there's no bacteria present. The flushing is removing sediment from the pipes, so it's kind of hard to, you have to tamper the pipe in order to see
You
that.
can't take a sample and do total dissolved solids
So you're talking about when we're actually flushing?
in the process of flushing, yeah, before and after.
I mean, if you don't have discolored water, there should be no total dissolved solids. So when we start flushing, yes, that would be through the roof. And then afterwards, it would clean up. We flush till it's all in.
And if we were showing. Yeah, I mean, you know, so yes, you could test that, but you know what the result's gonna be because you're flushing to clear water. And, you know, there, when you have.
Yeah, it'd be through the roof.
When you have, you know, those types of water mains, you're gonna have dissolved solids in your water system, and you're gonna have brown colored water with the whole concept around flushing is to eliminate that. We can certainly test and show, yes, it's high here and low here, but we know what that result is gonna be before we even get there, so it's probably not worth, unless we just wanna show the residents, hey, here it is, but if there's a cost to testing that probably don't wanna do, so.
I guess what would be your hope of what are you looking for?
I was just curious, I know of a company over in Middleborough that I've taken my own water.
Yeah, analytical balance.
like a couple
Yeah,
of
we
months or something.
take all of our samples to that lab.
Very good. Is there anything else further? Thank you again, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the other enterprise fund that we have, which is solid waste and recycling. We have done two things this year across the board. We've struggled with our low-end employees. Recycling attendants being one of those, lifeguards, library pages, folks that work for recreation on after-school and summer programs where we were right at minimum wage, and we struggled to hire those folks. We did a salary survey. You'll see that in Article 1. However, you're going to also see that in this budget. So I just want to point that out, that you know, a lot of those positions are going from $15 an hour to $17 an hour. We have to be competitive. We have to be able to hire those folks, especially lifeguards. Our program at the beaches is very important to the residents, and we want to make sure that we're competitive enough to be able to hire those folks. So moving on to the solid waste, the top three categories here are the landfill managers, small percentage increase there. The clerical salaries, again, those are the low-end people. There is a $2,000, just under $2,000 increase there, and then the recycling attendance is where you see the large increase, which is a $26,000 increase to $16,000 increase to cover what I was just talking about with those recycling folks. We want to make sure that we can hire competitively and make sure those positions are filled. We have a revolving door there. You know, we hire a lot of high school folks, we hire a lot of folks that are seniors, which is great, but we want to be able to retain those folks. You know, if they come and they go because they're finding jobs at McDonald's that are paying $2 more than what we're paying, we don't want that. When we train somebody, we want to be able to retain them. There's a cost to that training, and when you lose that person, you start over. So that the request there, overall salaries is going from $85,654 to $104,766. On the general expenses side, there are a couple very large, as we saw with chemicals, increases, and I'm going to flag those for us so that we can do that. The solid waste disposal line, I wouldn't characterize it as a large increase as a percentage. It is going up from $625,000 to $650,000. That is a contract that we have been in for a very long time. We will next January be entering the final 5 years of that contract. So we need to start thinking about where we're going to take our solid waste as that contract expires, because those locations are drying up throughout Massachusetts. We're okay, and we're going to see these types of increases over the next 5 years. It can depend, you know, without some drastic move by DEP. But we need to start thinking about as we progress through that process and get there. The big one is the curbside pickup one. I actually contacted different vendors this year. We're in a contract that we could get out of if we chose to with Easy Disposal. It doesn't make any sense to go anywhere. That cost with a new vendor is going to be very close to that cost on the high side. They're going to likely exceed as they do that, because they're going to want to replace equipment, they're going to want to change stuff, so our upfront cost is very high. The overall cost to the pickup is almost identical with the three vendors, two additional vendors, including Easy Disposal. So I'm recommending, and we're going to stay with Easy Disposal, but there is almost a $295,000 increase in our hauling fees as we move forward. So it's a big budget anyway. But as a percentage, it's a big number. It's $1.3 million next year. So I'm doing some studies. It won't be popular, I don't think, here, but I will be making a presentation to the board as we move through the fiscal year and some ways we can do that. One is you can do with all our neighbors to eliminate curbside pickup. In Plymouth County, it's 50-50. We're likely going to be proposing a $40 increase in the fees next year. If we look at our history over the last 5 years, we did 50, 10, 10, 10, 5, 5, 5, right? Yeah, 555. It's going to be $40.
The $40 would cover the difference?
Yeah, yeah. When we look at that fee, there are other seasoned towns that are our neighbors that will put us right around the $400 a year. We're at $360 now. That'll put us right around the $400 a year. We took a look, what are other communities doing, and there's a lot of communities. One community has downsized their barrels to 33 gallons from the
Are people producing less trash?
No, what they do is they sell you a bag for $2. So you put your 35, when that's full, you buy the bag and you put the bag out next to your bin. That model probably doesn't work because that model is going to increase your pickup costs. But they think they're, reducing it. They do drive a lot of their trash either, who knows? The experts said, what was the quote? I believe she said, vacant dumpsters, out of town, take it to work, or dump it in your recycling. Well, we obviously don't want them dumping it in the recycling for obvious reasons. We just went through our audit and we haven't got the final results, but midway through we were doing very well with our recycling audit. So thank you to the residents for keeping our costs down there. So solid waste and recycling is very competitive in the marketplace right now. Not competitive for the cities and towns, but prices are going up, locations are drying up. It's the cost benefits are always, there is no good answer to this stuff, but we need to talk about it, we need to understand it, we need to make choices. One of the things I will be presenting to the board is to move curbside pickup in-house. It's
What
not.
do you mean by in-house?
You hire staff, you buy the equipment, you pick it up and you haul it yourself.
I don't like the Quincy model.
So I can tell you I've done it in the past, very successfully in the past, to save the town of Natick over $1 million over to do it. I'm not a fan of it because you have to manage it and you do have pension costs, but when you build in all the costs at these numbers are getting scary and there's no way to avoid these numbers. We tried. We at least have to look at it.
Yeah, do your study and bring it back to us. Hey, let me ask you something, Bill, for recycling. There was a time where recycling, we actually made money on recycling.
We are right now.
So we are?
Yep.
What's the outlook going forward?
So the outlook over the next year or so is pretty good. We've had split this year where we started out the fiscal year last June, July, very, very high on recycling. The commodities market for recyclables was ugly, and so we were paying a large number. As the summer progressed into the fall and now through the winter, now we've done pretty well on the cost for the recycling, the tipping fee costs, because the commodities market has improved. It's not back where it was, 15 years ago, where cities and towns, when they first went to recycling, were doing very well. I can remember making $40,000 or $50,000 a week in Natick. It's not there. The market's just simply not there.
It's funny how inflation made everything else jump up except for the money they pay us for our recycling.
Yeah. Well, that's not entirely true. We are doing better than we were 2 years ago, much better. We're probably dropped $50 a ton. So those numbers are actually pretty good. And I think that will actually show here also. Recycling disposal, you can see we were at 186 in 2023, and our budget numbers have come down from that. You look at 2022, we were doing pretty well back then. So it went way up, and then it has slightly started to come back down, and we're seeing those numbers in our favor. Like I said, but it's not back to those great times, and I don't see it going back there. However, I will say the process has changed tremendously. We actually took a tour. I didn't go, but I've done significant research on the process. The recycle process used to be a big conveyor belt with people throwing recyclables in different bins. Now it's all automated. There's electronic arm. It's not great for the employees, but for accuracy and process, You know, when, yeah. I just
Lower cost, too.
I just negotiated our contract with Waste Management, and from a cost standpoint, direct cost for that service, it's flat going into next year. They have given us the exact same terms we had for 2024 for 2025. So I am pleased by that process. Now, if the commodities market will continue to improve, we'll do okay on the recycling side. It's the hauling piece that I'm concerned about, and the solid waste piece over the next 5 years as those things drive. So, this is a large increase. If you look at that, we're going from $2,018,000 to 2.3, just $2,355,000. So I just want to caution you that that is a fee increase. However, we're still very competitive on a fee process. You could not get what you get for the $400 that you're likely to pay next year, and we'll have that discussion on exactly what that's going to be after we finish it. I'm working with the collector treasurer to make sure we're 100% accurate on those. But I wanted to make sure that when we talk about the budget, we talk about that there is a fee increase that's going to be involved. However, for that $400, you get use of the recycle center, you get to be able to dump your leaves, you get curbside pickup for bulky waste, you get twice a year the ability to dump 20 bags at the curbside, you know, all included in that number. There's no other community, when I reviewed today, those numbers that provides that service without additional fees.
And bulk item as well.
And a bulk item, yeah. No, go ahead. Sabrina is my expert.
Well, I mean, I got to learn under Ed Thorne, so there's not much more to say at that point. I really, and Bill, of course, I just mean, I came to this with a little bit of experts in my standing on my shoulder. To Bill's point, one of the things that we should look to do for fiscal '26, and I know that it's something that we'd love to do for '25, to keep the increase in the fees down, but it's impractical. You don't have time, is to start looking at what it is we really do that is a bit beyond all our neighbors who cut some of this a long time ago to keep costs down. So we still offer some services that this town loves and takes full advantage of. But in a market where you have increased taxation, increased fees, do you turn around to the residents right now and say, and we'll reduce service? The timing isn't quite right. So we have time to get in front of the messaging, start letting people know what's going to sunset, what's no longer practical. Just 20 bags of trash alone twice a year. Those are whole house cleanouts. The tonnage on that is unbelievable. And every single week, 52 times a year, you can put a stuffed recliner or a couch or a hutch or a bookshelf out at the curb. After a while, you have to start looking at what is the cost benefit? What is this actually costing us? The tonnage in the contract for the extra service, and what benefit does the resident get that maybe they'd prefer to pay a flat fee or a reduced fee to get rid of. So Bill has done everything he can to maneuver and massage these numbers. Great job, by the way. But it is what it is. And hauling and gasoline and extra trucks and solid waste is a huge problem. Recycling is doing really, really well, and I just want to thank everybody. Everybody in Pembroke is really doing their best to really improve their recycling rates, and we're seeing it. But it isn't enough to overcome the other obstacle. So sorry about that. I just wanted to put that out.
Nope. I'm glad you did. So that's it. That's where we're at on these. I just want to make sure the only other item is the debt curbs on the second half. Those are required because we borrowed the funds. We need to pay back the debt. So any questions on recycling? Or trash and recycling?
The only thing I have with solid waste is just let the public know that there's still a program out there for seniors and people that are economically disadvantaged. Can you go through that for them?
Yep, so we do have a elderly discount program, and economic disadvantaged folks, you can come in and apply for reduced fees. You can do that through the Treasurer Collector's Office. I would strongly recommend, if you're struggling, research that and do apply for that. You know, I would, you know, we've heard some discussion out there about people trying to opt out, trying to hire private contractors. You're not, we did the research, you're not going to get a private contractor for less than you're paying right here. I mean, it starts at the number we're charging, and it goes up well into the $650 range for a private contractor that doesn't get you the same service. That's to pick up your trash and recycling once a week. It doesn't get you any of those other services. So stick with the town. I know it's a large increase, but the service we provide exceeds that of anything else that's available out there, including all of our neighbors.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any questions for the town manager on solid waste? Did you have anything else further for this?
So I will wait on capital until we talk about the capital article, if that's okay. I can do it now if you prefer, but, you know, we have a warrant article with capital, and so we can do the capital at that point. Or if the board prefers, I'm happy to do it right now. I mean, we have limited capital because we've frozen most of our capital. We're doing no general fund borrowing for capital in the spring this year because we did not want to incur any debt as a result.
So, next item on the agenda is to vote the remaining article recommendations, and that's when you want to discuss it?
Yep, exactly.
All right, so we'll move on to that. Next on the agenda is to vote the remaining article recommendations, annual and special warrants. You want to walk us through them, Bill?
Sure. So I will start by just a quick discussion. You've already gone through all of the articles that are on the consent agenda, so I will just read that so everybody knows what the recommended consent agenda is. This has been discussed with the moderator, and he has approved this. So, so articles that are going to be on the consent agenda: Article 6 is the trust fund transfers. Article 7 is the community preservation allocations. Let me make sure I get back to my list here. Article 8, which is the revolving fund limits. Article 19, which is the acceptance of the town reports. And Article 20 is the annual town election article. So those are all articles which tend to be non-controversial, and the moderators, I am recommending and the moderator has approved that we move forward with those. I'm going to go into the special town meeting warrant next. There are 3 articles on the special town meeting warrant. First one is departmental transfers. We have a few. We were debating on whether to do these as departmental transfers or do them as 3% end-of-year transfers. The town accountant and myself believe that if we do them as departmental transfers now, they're more visible, and that we will be able to, you know, residents can see exactly. You do them as a year-end, advisory sees them, the select board sees them, but nobody else sees them. So we're putting them on there now. We know about them. We know that most of them, when you're looking at a $70+ million budget, most of them are pretty small. So the first one is the assessor's general expenses. They want to be able to start their program early. You heard from Gene when we talked about that. They want to make sure that they have the contract in place in this fiscal year to get a lot of that, ahead of a lot of that work that we had budget cuts for moving next year. So I'm strongly supporting that one. The next 2 are both related to the elections. We have a presidential election and some of the primaries and some of the work related to that. When we talk about presidential elections, we forget that they transcend over multiple fiscal years. We bulk up our budget in fiscal 25 for the presidential election, which is in the fall, but right now, you know, we're doing a lot of work related to balloting and registrations and getting out some of the mail-out stuff. So important. Those postcards that the Commonwealth sends out has certainly, and it's too bad Andy left, because she would tell you she spent the day today in the mailroom mailing out items that people have requested. So we're augmenting those 2 budgets. Next one is for town buildings. Obviously some work that we need to do that we want to make sure on the general expense side that we have the money to do that. And then DMI, Department of Municipal Inspections, we made some changes there where we need to adjust the wages and salaries line. That has worked out. We've heard tremendous things from contractors and some residents about those changes. Well worth any funds that we're going to allocate at this point. And then the last one is the DPW. Let me think about this one for a second. We are transferring from wages and salaries because we couldn't get to some stuff, and we're contracting that on the general expense side to make sure that some of that work gets done. This is not related to snow and ice operations. Our snow and ice operations actually, well, if you think about the winter, we didn't have a ton of costs, although when you fill a salt shed, you basically spend our allocation. But so we'll be talking about snow and ice as we move forward, but they're not a dramatic problem for snow and ice as we do that. So so that's Article 1 on the special. Do you want to vote these individually, Mr. Chair, or do you want to run through them and then vote it as a slate?
Let's, because just on this one article alone, you spent 8 minutes speaking about it.
I won't be 8 minutes on all of them.
Let's take them one at a time, so
Okay.
it's fresh in our heads.
Okay.
So Article 1, what is the recommendation for town meeting? Favorable action, unfavorable action, or to town meeting floor?
Move favorable action, Mr. Chair, for Article 1 on the special town meeting warrant.
Motion made, second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Next article is to fund collective bargaining agreements. The town has settled collective bargaining with 4 different union groups. 3 are a 1-year contract with our AFSCME Council 93, Local 1700 groups. Those are clerical, public works, and water enterprise employees. So we have settled all of those. The other one is a multi-year settlement that we had been negotiating for almost 2 years, which is with the Police Superior Officers Association. I'm recommending that the board move forward. If we don't move forward and town meeting doesn't vote these, we're going to be back at the bargaining table. We have very good settlements, as I said to the board earlier. Neither side is 100% happy, and I have an HR colleague that I used to work with that used to say, when you get a settlement that both sides will ink and neither side is happy, you've done a good job, because everybody's made concessions and you have good cooperation there. So that's the case here. So I'm pleased by that piece of it, and I'm recommending that the board vote positive action on that.
Do you need a dollar figure?
I can give that to you. Bear with me 1 second. There. I know I have it. Way down on the list. So for Article 2 of the special, the total, which includes 2 years of retro for the Police Superior Union and signing bonuses for the other 3 unit, is $68,500.
And that'll be printed in the warrant?
It will. Well, it'll be on the motion for a town meeting. I don't know that it gets printed in the warrant. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't print it.
Well, the point being is that the public,
Yeah.
we need to know to vote a
Right.
recommendation, and the
Exactly.
public will need to know the exact number to
Yep.
town meeting floor. All right, very good. Are there any questions on Article 2 from the board? Is there any action to be taken?
I would move favorable action for Article 2.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So Article 3 is the citizens petition article. I don't know if there are any citizens here to talk about it.
Thought I seen Julie in the parking lot earlier. Maybe
Yeah,
she
but
was.
she left after Andy got appointed.
So, I would recommend that the board vote town meeting floor. As a town manager, I'm not 100% convinced that this is the best use for this property. It is, right now, the pantry is a 501c3. And this article would actually put a 501c3 organization ahead of town organizations. And I'm just not sure that's the best action that we can take. I fully support the pantry. I fully support doing upgrades where they are now, but that is a very large building that would need some different facilities to support a food pantry. We have new freezers, we have a bunch of new items there, we have opportunities to move forward where they are now with some additional upgrades, and I'm committed to going after those upgrades there. It is a political decision, that whatever the
Plus
residents.
the driveway's been upgraded.
Correct. Well, it's about to be. You know.
Happy about that.
So, we've done a new sewer system, we've done all of the freezers and everything else, and we're committed to that, to making that site more usable and better for them. It is a decision for the residents. I'm just recommending that the board, put it out there for town meeting floor, and that we have a robust discussion about it, so that everybody can understand, what can we do where they're at now, and what does it mean if we move them there to other potential uses for that. I don't have any, I know there's a couple of uses that we'll be presenting to the board.
All right. So just historically, the select board has taken citizen petition articles and moved town meeting floor and not taken any favorable or unfavorable action. And that's generally how we've done it, because if the select board wanted this on the warrant, we would have put it on the warrant, but we also want the citizens petition to be able to move forward for the public to hear it and discuss it, and it doesn't preclude us from debating on the floor about it, either for or against. I just feel like it's better for the board as their initial action to put on the warrant itself a neutral front, and then have our discussion at town meeting. That's just historically what we've done. Whether you like it or not, whether that's what this board wants to do, it's up to you folks. How would you like to proceed?
Is this binding?
I was just gonna ask that.
No, it's, wait a minute, is the petition binding, or our vote that we're about to take binding?
If the petition was to pass, was it binding?
We're
obligated?
working with council on that answer. Not sure at this point.
Do you know how much we've spent offhand on the existing?
I would have to get a total, because the sources for those funds are all over the place.
Right.
Some of them were state earmarks, some others were grants, and a significant amount were town funds. So I would have to capture the total. It's a lot of money, but
And then what would we do with that building? We've spent a lot of money to.
well, I mean, the challenge with that building, it's not like a typical building where you sell it because we own the building behind.
Right.
It just wouldn't make sense to sell the property.
So liability, if we don't use it, we have to tear it down.
Probably tear it down or find another use for it.
So all the upgrades would get torn down and as well.
And the building still needs some other upgrades. I mean, we did some work with the heat, we did some work obviously with the freezers and the storage, obviously with the driveway and some other things, so, and a septic, brand new septic.
We know that at the very least, the Council on Aging and the Pembroke Library are prepping or looking to make presentations to us about the use of the old Council on Aging building.
Correct.
So, has it been mentioned anyway that any of the citizens for this petition are going to do a presentation as well?
I've spoken briefly and said, where do you want to go? With the potential, when we had the potential for, a large grant to do some work in Bryanville. I don't have feedback on that. So I assume, but you know what they say about assuming, so.
I thought citizens petitions were never binding.
No, it's not true.
No, they can be. They can be. I'm not sure they are in this case because of the way it's set up. But
They can change the bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, town meeting changes it.
Right, it's a town meeting.
Citizens can petition to get it on the warrant, but it's town meeting vote. So, again, historically, we've been neutral, put it to town meeting floor, so that we can have the full discussion. I don't think that this board of the town should have their hands tied what's gonna go in there. It's not even vacated yet. Let's vacate it, get the other building up and running, and then find out what the best use going forward is. So that's an argument that I'll make on town meeting floor. But just in deference to a citizen's petition, I would rather say as a board, town meeting floor to have my argument than try to put a stop to it. I mean, not that we're putting a stop to a bite. So it's up to the board.
I'll motion to defer Article 3, town meeting.
Town meeting floor,
No, second that.
motion made, seconded, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that would be all three articles for the special. I will move on to the annual at this point, and I will, for Article 1, I will refer you to the back of the packet. The wage and classification study is there, and as I said, you will see, we're generally trying to keep the changes where the wage and classification, where the wage salary surveys showed us that our salaries were okay. We're trying to keep those changes around the 1% number. There are significant numbers on this schedule where our salary survey showed that we are significantly below. You will see those increases as you go down through, and I will attempt to point those out. So on the first section, all of the annual salaries, you can see that they're mostly with the smaller percentages there, which it's not always an indication that they're perfect, but they're closer than some of the others in a tight budget year. Schedule B, similar story there. Some of those are very flat, and most of those, we don't have folks in those positions. We only have a handful of these positions actually filled, or where we're paying, like we don't have a civil defense director, we don't pay the herring fisheries superintendent, and some of these others are incorporated into other positions where they're shared. On the compensation schedule, Schedule C, you can see, if you go down the page, you'll see the lifeguard, the water safety lifeguard training instructor, the head lifeguard, summer counselor, after-school counselor, summer head counselor, after-school head counselor, water safety aide, and then your library page, recycling attendant, recycling supervisor. All of those positions were at the low end of our pay scales, and we struggled in every one of those positions to retain and maintain, to hire, retain, and hold staff in those positions. They would come and go on a pretty regular basis, and the one thing that was consistent in all of those positions was a salary number. They were all minimum wage jobs, so you'll see that at the top of those scales now, there's an opportunity to get to that $17 an hour. And the budget impact of that is actually pretty minimal because they're mostly part-time individuals or seasonal individuals. So being able to, attract and maintain those folks is important. So we have made adjustments to those schedules on this schedule. And then the final pieces are the moderator, your salaries, assessor salaries, and the town clerk salaries. We are not recommending any changes. We will need to have a pretty robust discussion around the town clerk. I know that our salary survey has a wide range within this. It's actually $51,000 to $107,000. The median, the average are both in around $88,000. So we're going to need to likely have a robust discussion. I've had discussions with staff about it, and it's mixed. It's really it's a challenging piece. I mean, when we hired the new director of assessing, or chief assessor as we call her here, her salary was significantly less than her predecessor because her predecessor had a significant amount of experience. I don't know how the board feels about that. We can certainly leave it at this number, which is probably what I would recommend we're doing. This is elected officials. Andy's not an elected official, so we'll be negotiating a salary with Andy. So there isn't a significant impact to leaving this where it is. But I think as we move forward, we need to understand where that's at. And generally speaking, with a couple of exceptions, generally speaking, your elected officials are paid less than your appointed officials. So I just want to point that out as we have that discussion. Any questions on the classification and pay plan?
So you've heard all the wage classifications, and salary discussion. Is there a motion by the board for Article 1? The recommendation.
I move favorable action on Article 1.
Second.
That motion made second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, Article 2 is next. Article 2 is the operating budget, so don't run away from the appendices in the back because we're going to move right into the discussion on the operating budget. You have actually seen every single budget that's on here in Appendix B, so I won't go through them in detail. If you have questions about them, that's fine. Grand total for the motion is $75,361,337. Which has been pretty much where we've been at. We did have one change that we had discussed with both the board and advisory on that. So if the board has questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, you've seen these, so.
All right, the biggest part of town meeting. Funny how generally gets the littlest discussion, but we've been through 2 months now of listening to all of this, so this board has heard all of it. The information will be available to the public once the warrant's published. Is there any action to be taken on Article 2?
I would move favorable action for Article 2.
Second.
Motion made second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Actually going to be right on the next page when we talk about Article 3. Excuse me, let me get back to that. Article 3 is Enterprise Fund for the Water Enterprise. It's exactly as we discussed this evening. A total request of $2,952,256. And that's on Appendix C in your appendices in the back.
Okay. Is there any discussion by the board?
Motion to move Article 3 favorably.
Second.
Motion made second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Article 4. Article 4 is the solid waste, and it is Appendix D in your appendices. The request is for $2,673,288.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I move favorable action on Article 4.
Second.
And motion made second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Article 5 is the capital. I'm going to spend a few minutes going over that real quick. There isn't a very large capital. It is in it's this page in your packet. It's in with the financials. It's also in the last section, if you want to look and get it easily, it's Appendix E, which is the last page of your warrant. So I'm just going to go through these real quick. And as I said, there's zero general fund borrowing this year, so we're not doing any large projects that we can't pay for with free cash. So first item, and most of these projects are absolutely necessary or have an impact if we don't fund them. So Lydia Drake, their HVAC system has failed. We're requesting $6,500 for an upgrade, and that funding source is free cash. The Pembroke Public Library, we're requesting $75,000 for the roof and scupper repair and replacement. I will note that it could exceed that amount. However, we have requested $125,000 earmark through Senator Moran, which we are asking Rep. Lenatra to support for. The library is our newest building until we open the new one next to it. And yet it's approaching 25 years old. So a lot of your building systems, your components, your windows, the seals on the windows, the roof, the seals on the doors, although we are using a grant through Green Communities to do some work on the seals on the doors, which they will be doing within the next month, and doing some insulation stuff. But we need to replace some of those windows that are failing. We need to upgrade some of the siding and paint the entire building. So we have enough work to do there, where if we get the grant plus this amount, we can accomplish a lot of that. It will not be all-inclusive. I mean, there are other things within that building that we are going to have to do, but we don't have the estimates at 100% at this point, so we're not comfortable moving forward with those. Well, with the exception of the next one on the list, which we do have the estimate. So the rooftop units, we've been pouring funds into those for the last 2.5 years. They are beyond their useful life. Most of the rooftop units have a 15 to 20-year useful life, and I just told you that that building is reaching 25 years quite rapidly. So they need to be replaced. We do have an actual quote for this, and so we're requesting $150,000 for free cash for the Pembroke Public Library HVAC rooftop units. The next one is a commitment that we made to the residents of Pembroke that we would augment our annual Chapter 90 piece on an annual basis. This is the $600,000 that allows us to do that. So we are going to continue to maintain that commitment and continue to improve the serviceability and condition of our roads. Next one is from the fire chief. You can recall that a few years ago we did a capital for turnout gear at the fire station. They've hired some new firefighters and expended all of those funds. So this is a new request for turnout gear, which should last us a couple of years unless we have a huge turnover. Turnout gear now is $5,000 per person. Next one is a request from the schools. This is a multi-year project that we started 3.5 years ago. For HVAC improvements. You'll recall that we had that discussion. Actually, the schools were worse than the library. At that time, they've now fixed those, but at that time, they actually had HVAC units that were significantly older, double the useful life. So we have committed to doing that. We will continue to do that until all of those systems are upgraded. So that's a request for $225,000 from free cash. The next one is a request from the superintendent. She made a special request to me. They were struggling to find the funds for and they have to upgrade their curriculum this year and all the books and the software that goes with it. K through 6 Envision Math. I said, if you've got one-time funding, throw it at us, because we can put it on the capital, we can fund it with free cash. So this is one of those items that they actually requested, and I am supporting this. I think it's a good program, completely solid use of capital funding for free cash. So that's $119,000 for that one. Next one is a request that I have. We have several items throughout the town that were projects that we're working on doing improving work. One of those is the front steps to this building. If you've walked out there, you're going to see how horrible that is. This is a request for me for $100,000. Most towns have a maintenance budget outside of their individual line items. We don't. We fund our custodians and we fund our cleaning, but we don't have that general maintenance budget. This is something new. I'm hoping that the town sees fit to pass it so that we can continue to work through some of those programs, and we will report back to the board and actually do a written report to town meeting how these funds were spent and what we were able to do with those funds. So that's a request for $100,000 for building maintenance. Next one is that you'll recall that we started our information technology upgrades 2 years ago. This is phase 3 of a 5-phase program. We actually might not need 5 phases because we did get a grant from the Commonwealth that we've spent to upgrade our servers and our storage capacity, which was awesome. You know, that exceeded $100,000, and we were able to do that where we were running out of capacity and our servers were getting old. So with the exception of the assessor server, our servers are relatively new. That's not the case for our individual hardware at our desks. We are out of license and out of support on at least half of those products. We hope that as we move forward, we'll be able to continue that product. This is a request for $45,000. The rest are all water department stuff. I'm going to go through this quickly. If you have specific questions, let me know. The first one is a backhoe. That is water borrowing, not general fund borrowing, for $180,000. The second request is to replace what I believe is a 9-year-old half-ton pickup for $75,000. Next one is to do an upgrade on our SCADA system. If you don't know what a SCADA system is, I'm going to tell you in less than 30 seconds. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It is the information brains of the entire water system. It tells you, you know, what the most important thing it tells you is what the tank levels are, and you know, whether we need to go and turn on pumps, shut off pumps. It can actually control pumps too if the tank level gets to a certain point, and we have those auto settings. It'll turn on a pump automatically. Important piece, ours is very old, and time to upgrade. So that is a request from water retained earnings for $75,000. Next one is a continuation of the Edgewood Boggs well field. You recall that we spent $370,000 moving through this process from ARPA funding. This is a request from water borrowing for $390,000. Next item is a vacuum trailer. The water, Dan Sullivan and I, the water superintendent, had a robust discussion around this one. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of vacuum trailers, but for Pembroke of back, he convinced me that a vacuum trailer actually works. I would have spent the $680,000 and gotten a vacuum truck. He says, no, Bill, we're going to make this work. So we are requesting for the vacuum trailer $100,000 from water borrowing. Next item is for the well floor replacement. That's $300,000 again from borrowing. The water main upgrade on High Street. This is the big number that we talked about earlier. That will dramatically improve our water to our delivery to our residents. It's a $5 million request from water borrowing. This was actually flagged, it has been flagged for multiple years. It was flagged in the study back in 2018, the independent study that was completed. So next item, that's for the High Street water main we talked about before. Next item is for treatment engineering. This is also what we talked about earlier this evening. For Water Station 2, that's a $700,000 request from water borrowing. And then we also talked about the next item, which is the 20-year master plan. That's a $130,000 request from water borrowing. And then next item is to update the rules and regs for the water availability permit. This is DEP required, and we were required to do this. It's a $15,000 cost from water retained earnings. Brockton interconnection, that we did on a temporary basis when we had the big issue 2 summers ago. We need to do that on a more permanent basis. DEP is requiring us not to do the quick bypass anymore. So we will actually have a permanent interconnection where we can turn on water if we ever get into a water emergency again. So that's a request for $200,000 from borrowing. The Glenwood Water Station and Control Facility needs new roof siding and windows. That's a $115,000 request from water borrowing. And then the last one is water system main upgrade, West Elm from Oldham. You recall we're doing some work on Oldham this year. We want to continue that and continue to do that. That's a $1 million request from water borrowing. So, having said that, as I said, there is no general fund borrowing. We did not want to add to our debt load on the general fund side when we're struggling a little bit financially. All of these water items are items that will dramatically improve water and are absolutely necessary. And many were recommended before and have been out there. Dan has worked through with the engineering team and worked these numbers so that we can move forward with a lot of these.
So Bill, water borrowing, do we need a 2/3 vote at town meeting for that borrowing?
Yes.
And how is the moderator going to split these up?
So what we will likely do is we will split it into motion A, motion B. where all of the items from free cash and retained earnings will be motion A, and then the water borrowing number will be motion B. So you want to recommend,
So you have you're gonna need an insert in the warrant because we're voting tonight to vote on what's printed here.
correct. I can give you those numbers. It's very easy. I have.
No, I just,
Yep.
for the public at town meeting,
Mhm.
town meeting members, they need to know that anything coming out of free cash is majority vote, and anything that's borrowing is 2/3, and most people know that, but it's lumped into one article, which is clunky.
Right. It's so much cleaner if you just do it. I hate clunky articles, so.
Yeah. And the moderator could ask for a 2/3 vote on all of it, and then if there's and if it doesn't pass for some reason, then he can split them up.
Yeah, we could
It's up
do
to-
that.
It's up to him. Okay, very good. So you've heard the board, you've heard the capital budget. What's your pleasure?
I move favorable action on Article 5.
Second.
Motion made, second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Article 9, Bill, is next, right?
Yes, so let me get back to my. What did I do with my sheet? Let's see here, hold on one second. I'll get there. I'm going the wrong way, right?
On collective bargaining agreements?
Yep, so the collective bargaining, same story as before, although we're not doing a lot of retro there, so it's $46,176.
Okay. Is there any discussion amongst the board? Is there any action to be taken?
Motion favorable action on Article 6.
Nine.
I'm sorry, 9.
Second.
And motion made, second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving forward.
15.
Yep, Article 15 is the fire department article, am I right? No? Why is mine?
Affordable housing.
Why is it? Okay, so obviously I'm not the 100% expert on the Affordable Housing Trust. What I will say is that I'm recommending this, recommending favorable action to the board. Without this, there's no financial mechanism for our Affordable Housing Committee. And if you look at the membership of the trust, you'll see that both myself and the treasurer collector can provide some guidance to those folks as we deliberate and set up those funds. So I am recommending favorable action. I wish others could talk about the other pieces of it, but, I mean, without it, we have no financial mechanism for affordable.
So you're setting up a bank account for a trust. Are we going to fund it at all this year?
No. Well, we may fund it at the fall if our financial condition improves, and the other option is you can fund it with CPC funds.
Right, but so when.
Not at this
When we
point,
speak to town meeting, I want to say just that. We're starting a fund so that we can go to a bank and get a bank account, essentially. And as soon as we have money, we're gonna start putting pennies into it.
Correct.
Very good. Is there any action to be taken by the board?
I move favorable action on Article 15.
Okay, motion made second. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. 17.
So Article 17 is the lieutenant and paramedics. I support the concept. I'm just not 100% convinced the timing is right. I know that the chief is strongly in favor of it. And so, you know, they're paying for it out of the ambulance fund, which doesn't hit the general fund, and as long as we control and make sure, and he has promised that there are no backfills, then, I mean, at some point, we're going to need them as a best practice when we go to 2 stations, so. Either way, I mean, I would say either, I would not say not to recommend it, but I might say town meeting floor.
Yeah, so we spoke to the chief on this. Definitely going to need this when the new building is built. Is this coming to us a year, maybe even 2 years early? Perhaps. So it's, what the heck is it, like $7,000 or something?
17.
17, There's 7 in there somewhere. Yeah, I mean, this program definitely has to happen for the efficiencies and safety of firefighter personnel.
So, go ahead, Steve.
I lean towards, like, I get the whole optics thing, and I totally get and appreciate that. The, other departments are cutting, so on and so forth. My thing here is that it's effectively already funded. It's coming out of their own same budget. It's kind of moving things over a little bit. It's going to give them a little bit more flexibility. It is going to be needed eventually. So while I can see and appreciate the optics side of it from that side, at the same time, consequentially, effectively, it makes sense. It seems to make sense to do it. That's where I'm leaning on it, but I'm curious hearing what other people's thoughts are if I'm missing something.
Pretty sure the chief had also mentioned that this is essentially needed today, but it'll be needed.
Well, so the argument about needing it today is if you're responding to a fire and you don't have an officer, you're going to want that second officer. If we don't have an officer, likely we're having mutual aid and some other things in the chief's there. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm not opposed to the concept. It was, my only opposition was related to the optics.
And if it doesn't pass, to his point when I asked him, we were having a discussion about it, they'll still operate the way that they have since in the past, which they've been operating to that point to this day, and they can manage it. It's a need, but they can operate without it.
Clearly, when you're responding to a fire and you don't have an officer that has the additional training, it can be a negative impact.
Yeah, so every incident will have someone in charge. And that's how they operate now. And the chief's point is the person in charge should be a lieutenant, some upper level in the fire department that is
Clear line of authority.
Clear line of authority at all times, because the person in charge could be someone that's, I don't want to use the word low on the totem pole, but someone who's not as experienced.
Yeah.
So he could make the argument, and he essentially had when he spoke to us, but he could make the argument on town meeting floor that the public is better served and served more safely by having the clear line of command established at all times. And then if they do run into a problem, it can go downhill if they needed to, but to have that person, that authority figure there at all times is a better way to serve the community more safely, is what his argument would be. And once we go to 2 stations, there's not even a question that we're going to need this program in place. So the real question is, are we doing it a year or 2 early? And what's the harm in doing it a year or 2 early if you believe the chief's premise that it makes the incidents run more efficiently and more safely? So,
At no effective additional cost to the town.
yeah, it's coming out of the ambulance fund.
Would it continue to come out of the ambulance fund every year then?
Well, certainly the town manager controls where budgets come from in the revenue stream, so the answer to that would be, as long as I'm town manager, yes.
Okay, and we had a gentleman had a question, yes?
Do lieutenants work overtime?
Yes.
Yeah.
All firefighters work overtime.
So these lieutenants that may get upgraded, that overtime pay will also come out of the ambulance fund? And if so, how much money are we talking about? My other question is, if a lieutenant isn't there, and there's a senior firefighter on the scene, do we upgrade his pay contractually? Because he's filling the...
So we don't currently, if a senior firefighter responds to the scene, unless a captain is currently out for the day, where we upgrade somebody for the day, we do not bump them in pay. If they're responding to the scene because the captain is otherwise occupied, then they don't get an upgrade, currently.
And so my first question, if there's overtime involved, will the lieutenant's pay come out of the ambulance fund, or will it come out of somewhere else? That's why I think, personally, I think maybe optics-wise, maybe we should put this off until we get the other station, my humble opinion.
The overtime difference, it seems to me, is not going to be significant. It's 17,000 altogether. What extent is it overtime? How much is going to add up over that time?
There is a very small overtime difference. I would not recommend it come out of the ambulance fund just because you can't budget it ahead of time, and we like to budget the ambulance fund ahead of skid time. But it is a very small number.
Right.
Okay, so we had some of these same discussions while the chief was here presenting this to us, and yeah, this one's not a black and white yes or no, but is there any further discussion? Is there any action you want to take?
Well, actually, the only thing I have is, especially the other discussions about overtime, and if this is going to go into, their final retirement, later on, even though it's coming out of the ambulance fund, I would rather, even though I agree with the premise, I would rather make sure that the chief himself validates it to the town meeting floor. Because by him answering questions or saying what needs to be done properly, just like he did with us for a town meeting, maybe he'll get a different response than kind of...
So we can certainly have the chief make the motion. We've talked about that with advisory, and we can certainly have the chief speak to the article.
Yeah, and if this board is convinced that it's a good thing, then vote favorable. If you're convinced that it's not ready, the cake isn't baked yet until the new buildings are up, then vote that way. Or if we want to hear what the chief has to say, we could put it to town meeting floor as well. So those are kind of what the meanings of all those favorable action, unfavorable action, or town meeting floor are.
Liz has a comment.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hey, Liz. Good to see you.
I think one of the things, if I'm not wrong, is that the chief said that a lot of these people had taken all of these training programs for these lieutenants, and if it's not done within a certain period of time, there's a question as to whether or not they have to go through these programs again. So I don't know what kind of
He did say that. That's a good point, Liz. And so certain people took the lieutenant's exam, and the chief feels very favorably for those individuals to move forward to become lieutenants. So if the time passes and that test slot ends and they have to retest, there's a chance that he could get people that certainly passed the test and got better exam marks, but are they the correct personality and have the same leadership skill? You can pass a test, but do you have the leadership skills that the chief really wants and appreciates?
Isn't there the question you has a concern about they start possibly moving on because they might get, since they passed the test, they might be able to get a lieutenant's position elsewhere? Do you think that?
Well, the test is not a civil service test, so it's not transferable.
Okay.
We share testing with the town of Duxbury. We are not a civil service department, so the test would not transfer to another community.
But it could expire.
It could expire, could absolutely expire, and then everybody who took it would have to take it again. Our folks that took the lieutenant's test did really well last time around on the test. I'll leave it at that. And we share with Duxbury, so.
Yeah, so I'll just tell the board, but my own personal feeling on this is that I'm not 100% convinced that this should go forward now, but I'm convinced enough to take a position on it, of favorable action, and let the chief speak to it on town meeting floor. And it wasn't a motion, it's just how I feel, so, but I'd like to hear what you folks have to say.
My position remains favorable action.
Same.
I move favorable action on Article 17.
Second.
And motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that was the end of the recommendations, Bill.
Yes, we have completed the warrant.
Is there a motion to sign all the warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We've talked enough about it. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. So we took care of board action items, liaison updates, old and new business, the Memorial Day Parade, logistics and recommendations. Bill, do you want to tell the public about this?
We had an internal discussion and a discussion with the veterans agent and some others, and we originally were leaning toward canceling the parade. We've had some feedback. We still have some concerns about the parade. The chief prepared documentation for me to review. He is recommending that we use the Center Street section for the parade. I wasn't sure which direction to go with it. I thought shorten it perhaps and do a very short parade from like Herring Run to the center or Matakeesit somehow. The chief in his preparations did say that we have some serious concerns about cost. Police budget is tight as it is every single year, and the chief ran some numbers and would require 10 officers for a significant amount of time, so it's thousands of dollars to do that. Now, I mean, thousands of dollars are thousands of dollars. I mean, if we go over budget, we're going to have to find a way to fund that. So I just want to make sure.
It's going to be the same every year though, right?
Right.
It's not a special year where it costs us more.
It's not costing us more. It's a tight year where we don't have a lot of funding available.
Well, this year might not be.
Next year's not going to be any
So
better.
you're saying
I'm telling you.
shortening it
I
would
think-
help?
The citizens want the parade.
I don't think we should be canceling it, but do you think shortening it would help? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're reviewing that to see if we do Herring Run to here, we don't have to close as many roads. If we
So you
do,
would therefore need less detail.
right, if we do Matakeesit Street, it's a massive detour. If you do Center Street, you're detouring everything up the street, Hobbamock, Mountain Ave, and then as you
Right.
get to the center, you're closing this section down also.
I hate to set this precedent though. I mean, I think that we should always be available to fund the parade.
I'm just opening up for discussion.
Well, I
and
understand. I'm
Passing
just-
on information.
Voicing my
So-
opinion, this is a staple of this town, and we should never even consider it during budget cuts.
Okay, so who's going to make the decision? You, the police chief together?
Well,
Town
certainly.
Memorial Committee?
Well, Memorial Committee was meeting upstairs. I was hoping
I thought I
that
saw some of them.
they
very
probably
nice.
left. Did they leave? I was hoping to have that discussion. I know I've individually spoken with some of them, some of the members of Memorial
We want to see if Dave is still here.
Committee. I would certainly, as a committee, appreciate their input, but they weren't scheduled to meet.
Can we leave it like this, Bill? The answer is we are having a Memorial Day Parade. You can figure out with the police chief how long it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Is there any other old or new business? Is there any community comment from the board this evening? Is there any community comment from members of the community? Thank you. We have some upcoming issues. On April 30th, all warrants post. On May 8th, door-to-door solicitation permit renewal, Power Home remodeling. May 14th, annual town meeting. May 18th, annual town election. Unless I left something out, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good evening, everyone.